With the release of Ultra Kid Buu, the meta has definitely shaken up a bit, so we're going to be listing the top 10 best units to use as we approach the 5th anniversary of Dragon Ball Legends. So let's go. So we have a tier list here with all the pretty much meta relevant units in the game right now. This is like a snapshot of basically 99% of the units that you're going to be seeing in PvP. It's basically most of the recent units. With like the oldest unit here, I would say, who is it, like USV? Yeah, USV is literally the oldest unit here, with the exception of some Zenkais, obviously, that came out after him. Actually, USG is here. I just added USG just because, you know, he's somewhat usable, but realistically speaking, you're not going to be really seeing him in the meta, right? So as always, shout out to DNGEE for the tier list. He keeps his tier list updated at all times. As you can see, Ultra Kid Buu is already here, so shout out to him. I'll leave a link to his Twitter in the description for this tier list here. But as you can see, we have 4 tiers. It's going to be like a top 10 list, but I'm going to try to include a couple more units in here. Because it's really tough to create a top 10 list, just because compared to previous metas, there's a lot of really usable units. As you can see here, like all these units are pretty usable, right? And this is more than 10 units, right? As compared to like a couple months ago, say Legends Festival, if you weren't in that top 10 bracket, you're pretty much just not used whatsoever in PvP, right? So there are a couple units here that you could maybe exclude since you don't see them as much, like let's say Perfect Cell, Purple Jiren, maybe Revival Gohan, but I do think they have somewhat of a usage with some other units in this, so that's why we're gonna be putting them there. But we're gonna start off. I'm gonna leave the top I guess 5 for the end, but we're gonna just start off by throwing a couple units in some tiers here and then go from there. So for starters, we're gonna start off with Beast Gohan. We're gonna toss him here into the S tier. Trust me, we're gonna change it up a bit, but as we go, you know, I'll just throw him in Z tier. Actually no, let's throw him in S tier. Some prime candidates for S tier is definitely the 4s, both Super Saiyan 4s, the Tag 4s, and LF 4Ku. I'll put it like that. I do think Tag 4s are slightly better than, in my opinion, slightly better than Zenkai 4Ku, but, you know, they're really interchangeable. I think a lot of people have Zenkai Super Saiyan 4 Goku above the Tag 4s, and that's completely fine with me. I'm not too worried about that. Purple 17 is actually really good. He's gained a bit more value recently with a lot of blast-oriented units, and he synergizes well with, like, you know, Boo Bros. I think they use him, SSB Evolved, and Tag Zebros. That's a good pairing. Or you could just use him, you know, Trunks of Vegeta. Speaking of Trunks of Vegeta, we'll put him there as well. So, you know, they have their usage definitely, and he has gained value. I've never used him since I don't actually own the unit, but, you know, he's still pretty solid. Z-tier will toss in MVP 17 here. Zamasu for sure. We'll toss in Pan. I do think Pan, maybe people won't agree with this, but I honestly think Pan should be at the top of Z-tier. Just because she might not be, she definitely has aged since her release, being around with Beast Gohan and stuff, but she, to this day, is probably the most used 1% sparking unit in the game, and she's probably more used than a lot of the LF units as well. Like, if you take a look at this, the most used LF, Legends Limited unit, would probably be, damn, who the fuck would it be? Beast Gohan, maybe? LF17, Tag 4s? That's probably the most used LF, and Pan is pretty much used on all meta relevant teams, especially in the top 1k. Like, she's ran alongside UGB and Rose. She's ran alongside UGB Beast Gohan. You know, you can run her with UGB Hit, like Red Purple. She's just, you know, a perfect unit to pair alongside your 2 powerhouse units, and she offers like really good support on everything, right? And she's still very annoying to face with the arts power down, the reduced key. So I think her, I guess, prominence in the meta allows her to be that high. But when you compare it individually, obviously this tier list is based off of how good they are in the current meta. You have to rate her somewhat highly because she's basically used as a 3rd option for a lot of the top tier teams, right? So I'm gonna put her at number 5, but, you know, as always, like, these tier lists can vary, and you can have any of these units in the top, right? So we're gonna be putting her there. And a surprise here is, I don't own this unit, but I've seen a lot of people's opinion on this unit, and I faced this unit a couple of times as well. Not very often, but a couple of times, and I've seen some showcases of this unit. Cell. this red cell is actually very, very good. Like, you can actually go to some of the, I don't know which videos they are, but some videos where I face this cell, and you can see how shocked I am at how, first of all, he's extremely tanky. Post transformation, he's extremely tanky and does a lot of damage. Like, he's really surprisingly tanky. I don't understand how. I'm not really familiar with this kit. There has to be something in there that gives him like probably some sort of sustained damage cut or something like that. But he's very tanky, and I can only imagine how scary a very high star cell would be. I'm obviously rating this with the units mainly around the 10-star range to 14-star range, around that range. Anything less than that, maybe like 9-star-ish. Anything less than that, and you're like, kind of, there's no really point in valuing these units, especially because a lot of these units really depend on stars. For example, a couple ultra units depend on stars to really, really shine. So there's no really point in comparing them at low star levels, right? So how many units is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's already 9 units. Like, these units are all like, oh, I also forgot this guy. Where is he? Evolved. Where are you, my boy? Hello? Evolve. Oh, yeah. Why am I looking there? Evolve is right here. We're going to put him right there. I think Evolve is pretty solid. Now, if we were to, like, kind of order this, how would I want to order this? I honestly don't know how I want to. Zamasu, despite being, like, a lot of people have come to the conclusion that, he's pretty overrated. He gets completely decimated by a lot of units, mainly Rose, who's in, like, 99% of matches, and it's very apparent how easy you can take this guy. Like, 2 strike cards from Rose is gonna instantly remove like 8% of his HP. You launch another strike card into the blue and he's pretty much done, right? Like, he's very, very easy to defeat with pretty much any ultra units. Even with hit, you can like do some damage to him, but he's just a good option to have as your third member, especially with teams that involve Rose and hit, because you want to kind of build a future setup around Rose so that you can lead her hit. And Zamasu works as a pretty good third option. Even if you're leadering Ultra Kid Buu and you're going Ultra Kid Buu Rose, and you need a third option, Zamasu is a really good. Most people would go and lean towards that Zamasu. So similar to Pan, although they might not be as good individually, they are very prominent in the meta, and I think that's a very good way to evaluate these units. But you're gonna see, like, so for some other units, the meta prominence is not gonna factor as much just because the unit is crazy. But we'll get to that in a bit, right? So you have to somewhat factor that in when you rate these units. But that can't be the only criteria you go off of, right? So that's why Cell, like, despite not seeing him much, because I don't think a lot of people summon on his banner, he's still a very good unit, and if you have him, he's going to put in the work, right? So the top 5 in Z tier, I think, is clean. I think it's solid. Do I want to put 17 higher? Beast, honestly, I'm tempted to just put Beast below, like this, below these Super Saiyan 4s. I don't know, man. Like, I don't really see Beast at all, like, at all. But then again, GT, you don't really see them that often either. This is tough. Like, I think this can all be interchangeable, and I feel like I want to bring this LF17 is really good, but you really don't see him anymore at all. It's tough. I think this is fine. I honestly think this is fine. You can obviously like, within these tiers, I think you can interchange them. Maybe not Pan. I think, me personally, I can't see Pan below any of these units, just because she's just a staple on all the top teams. That's what I think. So personally, I would go Pan here and then go like this, interchangeable between these 4, and then these units here interchangeable. I think that works for me. Yeah, I think that's good for me. And then I guess we could throw in some units in tier 1. I'm not going to throw all these units, but I'm going to throw a couple. USV can go there. I guess, yeah, tag Zebros can go there. I'm honestly, I might have, dude, if you asked me like a couple weeks ago, this guy would have definitely made it in here, but I've continued facing this unit. I've used it myself, and this guy is just not it, man. I feel like his Transcendent Kamehameha, it's like a lot weaker than it actually is. And then outside of that, like, what else do they do? They really don't do that much other than that. Like, I'm honestly comfortable putting USV. Like, USV to me is better than this guy. And all these units are just better than him. Like, he doesn't really offer anything. His teams are kind of scattered around. He's blast based. You can use him with like Rev UI and like SSBE, but there's no teams where if you're running a team that doesn't involve one of the ultras or even two of the ultras, you're just gonna struggle a lot in PvP. That's how it is, unfortunately. Ultras are running the game, and it's like not even close. It's just like that. It's just like that, which is why, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys already know that ultras are gonna be going in this tier, and I'm honestly tempted to just add a tier, add a row below, like that. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Let's delete this row. I'm honestly tempted to just put a row below here and put a gap. We're gonna leave it like this, just because there is a very noticeable gap between the rest of the game and the god tier units. So I just wanted to make that clear. And so I think I'm happy. We could throw in Rose in here. We could throw in FG maybe. And I think I'm solid. I'm happy with this lineup here. Yeah, I mean, this Trunks, you don't really see him. Droids, like these, you know, they're usable, but you don't really see them at all. So it's hard to really. Future Go, I'm only putting there because of like the hyper buffing of a unit. You can use this guy. Rose is a good alternative to if you don't have a ultra, I guess, but he's just there, right? And I think I'm okay with this. So now let's get into the god tiers, the ultras of this game. So let's just toss all of them in there. This is not an order, by the way, right now. We're gonna toss them all, and they all go there. Okay. Now, this might be crazy for people to I made a tweet a couple days ago with where I'm comparing two units, and it's Kid Buu and Gogeta Blue. Gogeta Blue is at number 4. Yes, I know it's gonna be hard for people to accept this. I mean, you can have Gogeta Blue the top number 1. I personally don't see it. People like to see, you know, all this is interchangeable, blah blah blah. But me personally, I really can't see it being completely interchangeable. Like, you could argue that they can go above and stuff, but personally, I think Gogeta Blue right now, currently, this will probably change with the anniversary, especially for getting Ultra Vegeta Blue and stuff. But right now, with how these units are operating, I think Gogeta Blue is last right now in the top 4. And then if we keep going up, this is tough, man. This is tough. For me personally, I think Rose is number 1. Rose is number 1. The biggest weakness Rose had prior to Kid Buu's release was his weakness to Gogeta Blue. And even though they were ran together a lot of the times with Pan, if you went up against another team that was running that setup, Gogeta Blue is the one that's kind of carrying that team, right? Carrying that match, because he has no type disadvantage, and he has type advantage over Rose. But now you're running Rose with Ultra Kid Buu, and let me tell you, Ultra Kid Buu is a very, very good counter to Gogeta Blue. He has a green card, nullifies, change all his blast to strike so you don't pop his gauge. He has endurance. He has the cancel of buffs, which means that if you're in the field and Gogeta Blue rushes you, you know, we all know Gogeta Blue gains the buff effect to nullify enemy endurance on rush. Kid Buu cancels that, which means that Gogeta Blue can't nullify the endurance. So there's that. He does crazy damage. He does crazy his healing. He has crazy key recovery. Recovery. That's what they labeled it as, and it makes a lot of sense. Kid Buu is crazy. So I think that partnership with Rose allows Rose to just simply be the number 1 unit. Now, I know a lot of people will say, you know, Hit is number 1 and stuff like that. I just find like all the intangible stuff, like the paralysis, the non-stop spawning of blue cards and all that stuff, just makes it insufferable to play against this guy. And it's really crazy, man. And it forces you to not also, like, you want to, you know, being able to switch out characters as a way to be on the defensive, right? To kind of stop combos and stuff. But this guy just keeps getting card draw speed. He has 9 cards, strike cards. He just combos forever. And you really can't do anything. He just combos until his unique gauge is full, gets cover nullification, pops another one, gets vanish, pops the ultimate. He has 3 ultimates. Like, I think Rose is a clear-cut number 1, like, personally. Like, I don't know, man. He's just crazy. And not gonna lie, I'm kind of happy to see a Rose unit being number 1, because we haven't seen a very strong Rose unit in forever, right? We had Green Goku Black, who was an absolute monster, but he was never truly number 1 unit in the game. LF Rose was not even a top 20 unit. What else? Red Goku Black was a good unit, but he was never number 1. So it's really nice to see a number 1 Rose unit. You know, Rose is definitely one of my favorite units in the game. He's one of my favorite characters in the series as a whole. So it's really nice to see that. It's unfortunate that he has such a toxic playstyle, which makes it so a lot of people hate him, but, you know, it is what it is. So Rose is number 1, and I do think Hit is number 2, strictly because if you look at this, Hit is the only one that doesn't have, well, Hit is the only one that doesn't have a counter to him in terms of type advantage, right? Ultra Gogeta Blue counters Rose, Kid Buu counters Ultra Gogeta Blue, and Hit counters, or I mean, has type advantage over Kid Buu. But Hit doesn't have a blue unit that can stop him, right? It's crazy to think that, you know, a couple months ago, blue units were so overly dominant, but now they're arguably the weakest color. Just because if you don't have an Ultra that can be in this tier, you're a weak color. Like, green is covered, red is covered, yellow, and purple. So that automatically makes blue a weak color, which is insane. So because of that, I do think Hit deserves his number 2 spot. And then Kid Buu, obviously, number 3, and then Gogeta Blue. Like, I'm perfectly content. I was honestly going to toss in Kid Buu at number 2, but, you know, you have to factor in a couple things here. Just having no blue units, no ultra blue units, obviously, countering this guy makes him have a slight edge. You know, time stop. We all know how ridiculous the time stop is. So I think I'm comfortable with this lineup. Now, obviously, you know, you guys can have your own opinion. You can still have Ultra Gogeta Blue at the top. Like, I'm not really that concerned, even though I don't really see it. But if I were to kind of explain for me what the interchangeable units would be, it would be Pan here. Let's start from here. This is, I don't care about this. This is all interchangeable. Maybe Trunks and Vegeta at the last spot. These 4 units are interchangeable with Pan here. Rose is a staple. These 2 are interchangeable, and Gogeta at number 4. I think this, for me, is solid. I think I'm content with this list. So this is going to most likely be how the meta is going to be until the 5th anniversary, which is in like 3 weeks. We're not going to be getting any major releases until then. I don't think we're going to get an LF or anything. It's going to be kind of dry until then, but it's going to stay like this. And then I do think the anniversary is going to introduce some nice little meta shifts, especially with the Part 3 Ultra. That's going to be very interesting to see when the time comes. So definitely drop a comment letting me know what your thoughts are on this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you structure your top 10? What do you have in your top 5? I'm interested to know what you guys have to say. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe, because it's so important, so don't forget. Other than that, have a great day. See ya.